Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Lindsay, a member of the CK-12 team, and my colleague Katie and I are going to be running today's webinar to share with you updates on CK-12 and refresh some key skills in the process. So thank you all for taking time to join us for this updates and brush up session. We've taken feedback from any of you who joined us last year, and we've revamped part of this year's certification program. Hopefully you not only saw the information on the registration pages, but you also saw the CEP alumni tab in the middle. If you completed our program already and don't see your name or picture on there, please click on the link at the bottom of the page to get your information added. In addition to updating our Certified Educator program, our team has been busy continually updating our offerings to make your experience and that of your students better. Since any updates to CK-12 this year were incorporated into our core content for this year's program, we built this session especially for all of you who've completed our 2017 Certified Educator program and want to learn more about the changes to our site, as well as get a short preview of our upcoming FlexBooks 2.0. Hopefully most of you remember all about using Zoom, both the Q&A for questions and the CK-12 team and the chat window to network with others in this webinar. So if you haven't already posted where you're from, your name, anything like that, put it in the Zoom window. Do change that to say all panelists and attendees so everybody can see your chat. One new thing this summer is that we are using Google Classroom to host resources and assignments for this program. If you're not already in our Google Classroom and you're interested in seeing any of those, you're welcome to ask us for a join code or see any email that you might have received that has that in there. A particular resource you might find useful through our CEP Google Class is the session resource page. We have been curating these to go along with each webinar. The one for this particular session can be found in the matching topic in that Google Class, and then here in a few minutes we'll also post it directly in the window for you.
So today's session is called Brush Up, Skills Refresher and Updates to CK-12. Specifically during this webinar, we'll be covering the following topics. Technical updates, that includes information about classes, assignments, and learning management system integration, as well as our updates to our concept pages, study guides, and tools. We'll then talk about content updates, our chemistry sims, and the redesign and embedding of PLIX, and then new CCSS interactive FlexBooks and our College FlexBooks. So check those out regardless of whether or not you're using Common Core in your state. And then finally, a little sneak preview of our upcoming release of FlexBooks 2.0.
All right, before we get started with this content, we do want to take just a second and hear from you guys. So we're going to launch a poll. And here's what we want to know from you guys today. Where do you stand on training with CK-12 through webinars and the Certified Educator program? We're just curious of who's decided to attend this session. So we would like to know. Click the one that applies here, or if you've, click the one that applies. I am new to the CK-12 Certified Educator program and just did my first webinar this week. I attended webinars in the past school year. I attended part of the 2017 Certified Educator program, or I completed the 2017 Certified Educator program and became CK-12 certified. And by first week, it could be like the first couple of weeks, actually. It's probably, so select the first one, even if you joined us last week for the first time. All right, just another second for you to lock in your answer. Interesting. Okay, we can end the poll. We'll share with you the results. Yeah, we designed this session. We were hoping that a lot of our 2017 certified educators would be on this, but it looks like a lot of you are new to the program. So if you're still taking some sessions, you might be, there might be a few things that we're talking about as updates that you haven't quite seen yet if you have a few more upcoming sessions with us. But for those of you who've been with us for several sessions, hopefully a lot of this information is gonna register with you and be helpful to you as you're making plans for the upcoming school year. All right, well, let's get started with the session.
So our incredible development team continually works to make our backend better by enhancing performance and the algorithms we use to present questions and resources to you and your students. In addition to any of the work on the back end, they made some incredible updates that you hopefully have noticed as you explore and use CK12.org and all of the resources on there. The first group of technical updates I want to review is based around our assignments, classes, and learning management system integration. So an update from kind of multiple groups. We went from study groups and CK12 class groups into kind of streamlining that into classes. And then with that update, we just renamed that whole area classes on our website. And with that, the teacher can create and students can join those particular classes. There is no kind of separate study group piece at this point in time because it wasn't really being utilized for classes, and we figured streamlining it into one piece was the way to go. We're also planning on allowing co-teachers for these classes in the coming year. If that is something that you are interested in having, if you do co-teach, and it would be super helpful for you to have a co-teacher have access to reports and create assignments and work in that class as well. Please consider emailing us at jumpstart@ck12.org, and let us know kind of some of the privileges that might be useful for there. If you need more than one co-teacher in that system, then let us know what that looks like. And yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback on that feature before we roll it out, and that will help us kind of fine-tune the little pieces that go with it. In addition to kind of the class side of that, when we talked about turning in assignments, students weren't always sure if they'd managed to successfully turn in their assignment. So we've now created this turn in button across our platform. So students actually have to turn in their work in order for you to be able to see it within CK12. You'll see this in some learning management systems as well. So just keep in mind that if a student says, hey, I did this work, I can see it, they should just open it up and click the turn in button to make sure that you are seeing those reports for any of your assignments. And then with this idea of turning in, we had to kind of update when students could turn things in based on the type of modality. So I'm just going to take a minute to talk about reporting in CK12. If you've been here this summer, you've probably seen this screen more than once already. But our first two modality types are our adaptive practice and our quizzes. Those you can turn in at any point in time that you stop your work. For quizzes, you get the number of attempts that a teacher allowed for you to work on, and your percent is out of the total number, so the number correct out of the total number. For adaptive practice, that goal is 10 correct, and you can save that and turn it in at any time up to that due date. CK12 will record the last turned in score as you're working your way through up to that date, and then if you do more work after that due date, it will not continue to present that as your score. So just that due date set so that you can kind of turn in that report accordingly up to that date. If for some reason some student didn't do any work before that due date, then they would have one shot to complete their work afterwards, and it would have a little kind of tardy mark noted next to their score. For other modality types, these are really learning and exploratory modalities. So there's no percentage score. They're check marks in CK12 or no or full credit in our learning management systems. As soon as you open a read, a video, or a real-world application, you have the option to turn that into your teacher. It's really just a check mark that you access that. For PLIX interactives, you actually have to start answering challenge questions before you'll see the option to turn in. And for simulations, you have to at least start kind of playing with that first initial question in order to actually get the turn-in option in a simulation. So this sheet is accessible in our Getting Started with CK12 practice and assignments reference sheet, as well as in our Google Classroom reference sheet. So you can kind of find it in some of those resource pages if you want to reference it down the road. And then we also updated the grading piece on CK12. So if you assign content to students within CK12, we switched it up so that it was organized by student's last name. Right now you'll see last initials just for privacy reasons for our wonderful interns that were helping us populate this class. But that way you can kind of organize it the way that you kind of, when I used to teach, had it in a grade book by last name. So you'll see that there. We also are continuing to work on updates for this reporting piece. So if you have thoughts or feedback, please let us know. And especially we're testing out the ability to download your reports in a CSV option. If you are interested in beta testing that before we release that to all of the rest of our users, please email us at Jumpstart and we'll pass you along to the tech team so that they can share that information and link with you and you can test it out before we go. The other thing you might want to find is our tools and apps page. So you can see there, Kidum is now accessible on our tools and apps page. They've started to include CK-12 content in their system. They kind of maintain that within their whole system. So assigning and creating stuff is something that you can ask them about if you have questions. We have updated our Google Classroom integration, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but definitely check out our tools and apps page to just kind of continue to see access and information about our apps, as well as the integration we have with learning management systems. So as I said, we updated our Google Classroom integration. I'd say when we did a couple polls throughout this year, maybe about 50% of you guys are starting to use Google Classroom as your learning management system. And so we wanted to make sure that in addition to just sharing content, you could actually assign content and see student progress. So you can see kind of that little rounded rectangle up on the top right that says share this subject. You can get there by clicking on the little green share a plane on various pages. And that may still be useful if you want to share a whole book or a chapter level, or just share something with a class as a general resource to look at. From there, if you choose an assignment option there, you won't see student reports there. You actually have to choose the assign to class piece, which is that bright orange text or bright orange button kind of within our interactives, or on the left side of our regular pages. And by clicking on that assign to class, you'll see what's there on the left, that pop-up that says assign to class. You can pick Google Classroom or CK-12. And if you're using Google Classroom, we recommend that you stay within that environment so you don't have half your assignments in Google Class and half your assignments in CK-12. Students don't know where they are and you don't know where the reports are. So definitely stick with one, but you can directly assign to Google Classroom from CK-12. And then you can see that score report within Google Classroom, and you have a couple other options within there as well to kind of adjust assignment pieces. So check out that upgraded integration if you are using Google Classroom. We also updated our Canvas and Schoology integration. So this past year, I know at least this spring, you could assign interactives or PLIX and Sims within Schoology. Those are now also available in Canvas. And when you click on the view, you actually get a view similar to that of CK-12 concept pages, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute because that has been updated as well. But you can definitely see that updated interaction and integration and assign the full suite of core modalities within those two platforms. So that's kind of the first round of technical updates on the back end and how classes and assignments and integration works. And now I want to talk about kind of some of the pieces that you're going to see within CK-12 specifically as you're exploring different resources. So the first of those is our concept page. So we actually redid this concept page layout. It used to have a lot more pieces on it. You might see a zillion videos all at once. We tried to streamline it and make it a little bit cleaner and more easily recognizable for what types of modalities were accessible there. So that is the new layout that you might see. And with that comes the idea of group modalities. So for each of these little cards that you might see on there, you'll see for anyone that has more than one accessible modality for it, you'll see that directly there as well. And you can click on the more reads or videos or sims or whatever that link is to pull up all of the reads or all of the videos that are available for that particular concept. The idea here is that we kind of showed you the basic one that you, or the more the standard one that you'd be assigning to your students most likely. And then if you're looking for the advanced read or you're looking for extra videos to work off of, or you might want to check out a different simulation, you could access those, but they're not kind of cluttering up the whole page. And you're not really sure which of these reads should I start with, which of these videos should I start with. We kind of gave you one to work off of and access to the rest of them. We also updated, you'll see a link on different branches. So any of these branches, algebra, geometry, or science, bio, and physics, that have accessible study guides. If you go to that branch on CK-12, you'll see a link to access them. Students would have a little circular icon on their home pages where the teachers have their schools page icon, and that will access our study guides browse. So we kind of put them in a browse page similar to that of our simulations and our PLIX. So you can access all of these quick little reference sheets for any of the topics from one place and not have to hunt through and see, well, there's study guides in which topics and where do they go and how do I find them? Hopefully this layout is helping with that. With that in mind, we also changed the pop-up for study guides. They used to be within a box within the larger page. They're now full screen view, so you can actually see them and easily look at them and not worry about all the clutter on the outside. And then there are options to download, add that study guide to your library, or share it with your classes. They're not really assignable, they're kind of just a reference sheet, but you can download them and print them for any student that wanted a printed copy to work off of. So hopefully that option to download and access is helpful for you. And then we made annotations and embedded views. So you sometimes see, especially I think the one that's currently available right now is our when you're accessing reads within a practice environment. So for students that are struggling with a particular concept, it will stop them. It might say, check out this video or this text or something like that. If they open up that text within that practice thing and it's that embedded view, they now can still highlight and take notes within there, and that will save for their account. So we wanted to make that available if they're learning while they're doing practice, still have the option to highlight and note take within that piece. And that's within CK-12, not within other platforms. That's an overlay tool, and so other platforms and learning management systems would have to develop their own tools within that system. And then we're testing out auto-summaries for earth science. So this is kind of a narrow little piece that you might start seeing. You can check on the left-hand side down at the bottom under the quick tips where your notes and highlights are. You could see a summary for that. This is a system-created summary. It's saying, okay, what are the key points that we're seeing in this read, and can we spit those out and have that be a tool for students? So it might be great for some students to kind of take their own notes and then click on the summary and say, were the key things that the system said, kind of the most important points in here for me to look at, some of the things that I brought up, or did I miss one of those? So that's currently available for earth science, but definitely check that out if you teach earth science. So I think with that, I'm going to pause for a second and see what types of questions we have. It looks like most of them have been answered as we go from here. One asked, can you download study guides to a custom FlexBook? You could put a hyperlink to that page of a study guide. It's not when you're customizing a FlexBook, you're incorporating reads and text within them. So anything that's kind of almost like a PDF is what the download sheet is. You could attach that to a custom FlexBook, or you can download it and upload it as a resource within there. But it's not something that you could put within the text as like an embedded view. It would be more of that view. Are there any restrictions if I download info from your site and post to my class website, like a Weebly site connected to my class page through the school's webpage? You're welcome to hyperlink to any of our pages. If you are using information from our site, you need to make sure that it's cited correctly, that you're giving us attribution, but you are allowed to freely share and remix and reuse our content as long as you're staying under our Creative Commons license. So just make sure that you're linking back to our site and it's clear that it's coming from us. But you're allowed to use it in your class. So double check those if you have any questions. And we have a question about earth science being for first grade. That earth science content, I think, was designed for middle school at this point in time. There's some earth science content for high school as well. The summaries, I believe, are in that earth science branch, versus we currently have one science FlexBook that's CK-12 based for first grade, as well as the matching ones for the rest of K-5. But that summary piece is specifically for the concepts that are tagged to the earth science branch as a whole. So I think with that, I'm going to continue on and talk about our content updates. So I want to start with some of our new fun interactive notifications that we have going on here with our SIMs and PLIX. So last year, if you were involved in the summer program, you saw our physics simulations. Our science team has been carefully working through our chemistry simulations as well, making sure that they're accurate, making sure that they have all the pieces. Those are in beta right now. We've released, I want to say about 15 of them so far. We're working through some more, and we're working through adding all of the components. So like the simulations for physics right now have worksheets that are accessible. The chemistry team will be releasing those worksheets for the ones that are available in the coming month or a couple of months. So you'll be able to see some of those worksheets. They're trying to add in those introductory questions as well. So those are kind of in initial format, and we're continuing to add both to the ones that are there and developing others. So definitely check out our chemistry simulations if you teach chemistry, or if there's some topic in there that would be relevant for another branch.
A question just came in about grade levels for our simulations. What do you recommend for that?
So our chemistry and physics simulations were kind of designed, those branches are more high school level content. Some of our simulations, you can kind of remove the graphs and a lot of the technical pieces. So I know there's one that's like a seesaw one, where the simulation itself has, I want to say a mother and a daughter that are kind of adjusting on a seesaw to try to get it to balance. There is all of the force and other pieces up at the top, but you could have students just hide those graphs and just focus on trying to figure out what that means to balance those two people. So there are pieces of that you could kind of adapt to use. I might consider using that kind of posted on a class like board. You might project that and work through it as a class, because then you could individually hide everything and not have to hide everything for all of your students. But that might be a way that you could adapt that to a lower grade level, but they're not specifically designed for kind of that elementary level at this point in time. Some of our other interactives, I know there's scattered interactives for elementary school for our PLIX, and I think they'll be working on some more as they work forward from here. But we started with middle school and high school content, and so those are the resources that are the most developed. And we released K-5 Science. We'll talk about that kind of as we go through. We did release K-5 Science, I want to say about a year or so ago. So I think we were previewing that last summer. And so you'll see books for that, and then we'll continue to work on other areas within that STEM area. So I think with that, our Chem Sims are available there. We've also done some updates to our PLIX interactives. Those are those little quick interactives that are available across math and science. You'll see the redesign of some of them. We tried to kind of polish them up a little bit and make them more visually appealing in certain ones as we work our way through. And then from the CK-12 side right now, we have the ability to embed those PLIX within our FlexBooks. That is not a feature that is user-facing at this point in time, although we are talking about options to give you access to the embed codes so that you could do the same. But right now, you'll start seeing those in some of our newest FlexBooks as we actually embed the content directly in that FlexBook for our PLIX. And I'll be talking a little bit more about other interactives in our FlexBooks when we get to our Common Core books. So right on cue, here's our new FlexBook page. So in addition to the science books that were released about a year or so ago, we've released the beginnings of our Common Core State Standard Interactive FlexBooks. These books, I've had multiple teachers say, I teach at a state that doesn't use Common Core. Can I still use these books? Would they be useful? I say yes. Just delete the CCSS off all the titles, and then you have a phenomenal interactive FlexBook. And the goal behind that is really the philosophy of Common Core with that active learning and exploratory learning, and not just, here's the formula, go ahead and do that. So you'll see our algebra books and our geometry book are live, and we're working through our middle school books. And for each of those books, we have teaching guides accessible. Those include scope and sequence, vocabulary, lesson objectives, and more resources in teaching these particular new books that are coming out. So some of them are available now. Some of them are being rolled out as we speak. So keep an eye out for especially the middle school ones that you could take and even adapt probably to the upper elementary school. Those are also available on our app. I think if you can't find them on our app right now, you could open them in a browser and access them in the app, or open them and access them on our webpage in our offline reader. But we'll have those as we finish that rollout accessible there as well. And then within that, as I started saying, there are these embedded interactives. So you'll see kind of on the bottom that students might be adjusting numbers and kind of figuring out, okay, what's the square root of this or that, or how does that work? In the middle, embedded interactive where they can play with shapes directly in line with kind of what they were learning about in that particular read. And then also a drag and drop question where they're kind of answering, this is the formula for this, that's the formula for that. And these embedded PLIX, and like we had the embedded PLIX, these embedded interactives are specifically in line with the text. So instead of embedding a PLIX that has all of the features, the interaction, the questions, the description kind of in a separate tab that would open up, here we're putting the interactive directly in the text in line with the content that's being covered directly before or after it. So one of those things we had some questions about kind of accessing it, going from there, what grade is that aligned for? Those interactive books currently, as I said, we have algebra and geometry out. We're working on our middle school books. We're continuing to develop other areas and grades. For the PLIX themselves that were in there, the interactives are just in those books. The PLIX are available primarily for middle school and high school. You'll see a scattering of elementary PLIX across topic areas. And then you might be able to see kind of, as we continue to develop, you'll see more and more of those at those lower grades. If you want to access the interactive FlexBooks, you have a few options. You can go to the topics. So in this case, if you're looking for either of the algebra books, you go to algebra. Those are available. So you'd see those under the Algebra FlexBook for High School tab. Similarly for geometry. And then you could go down to the direct link, so ck12.org/books/standard-CCSS. That would get you to our browse page that includes both the books and the teacher resources. Or at the bottom of our footer, you'll see Common Core Math, and that would take you to that page. If you access any of these books, they're available in our offline reader, as I said. Access them through a browser on a phone or tablet, and you can open them in the app. And for any section, like there's a unique URL that you can share, but for any section, you would assign that you could assign that to Google Classroom or another place. If there's an interactive component, it works as long as you're accessing the internet. So if you do access this book offline, you will have limited features for that piece. And so that's kind of why there's a little bit of potential disconnect in terms of using this book in an offline environment, because their really goal is to be interactive as you work your way through. The other set of books that we released kind of at the beginning of the fall, I guess partway through the summer last year, were our College FlexBooks. This includes 3 books that CK-12 specifically created. So our College Human Biology, Pre-Calculus, and Elementary and Intermediate Algebra. Those 3 books were taken from content we had and adapted and rewritten specifically for college level in mind. So the biggest pieces of the math ones were especially kind of those applications components, making them relevant for college age. Especially at the kind of introductory pieces for algebra. There's a 4th book on our College FlexBooks page. It's called Origins and the Search for Life in the Universe. That book was donated by a professor at Yale and is a work in progress. So you'll see some pages that might be kind of a note that's like, this section is coming, but you have access to use it and customize it at this time. And then this summer we've been working, actually this whole school year, we've been working on creating practice, our digital practice specifically for these books. So right now you might see a scattering of practice here or there that was tagged to an earlier concept in high school, but shortly we'll be rolling out the practice for college, and those will be retagged cleanly across all topics within our 3 core CK-12 books. And you'll see that practice coming by this fall. And those books can be accessed either via the direct link, ck12.org/college, or at the footer of CK-12 pages where you'll see that College FlexBooks option. So I think since we don't have any questions at this point in time, I'm just going to continue moving forward from here. And I'm going to show you a little sneak preview of our FlexBooks 2.0. So we're going to skip the Q&A. Feel free to keep asking questions in that window. We'll keep answering them live or via chat, or in that Q&A window, I should say. And with that, I'm going to move into FlexBooks 2.0. So just to get you intrigued, I'm showing you a few screens to work your way through, and then hopefully that will give you an idea for exploring them when we release these shortly. The first thing is that we have a new design. If you've been using our FlexBooks app or our offline reader, you'll have seen kind of a cleaner look. There's less information on the side of what you're reading. There's more kind of focus on the particular lesson. So you'll see this new layout for our FlexBooks 2.0. So that's a piece of what we're looking for. We had really good feedback on accessing stuff in there. And then a bunch of different kind of links and resources on the bottom and different pieces as you work your way through. When we release these, we will be releasing our standard science books that we've been converting over to this, as well as our new Common Core math books that we're kind of previewing in this. And then we'll do a rollout of additional releases for additional books and for kind of options as we work our way through. But in our initial release, you'll see our Common Core math books and then our current science books that are available on our site. If I'm in this read, there's a couple things to point out. One, especially for our new interactive math books, you'll see those interactions directly within there. If I go into this, there is a left navigation on the left side, this easily orients you to where you are in the progression. So we had a lot of questions of saying, well, I'm in this section in this book, but I don't know where it fits within the broader book as a whole. Where's the table of contents? How does this work? So you can quickly jump to that navigation and see where you are in your progression. On the right side at the bottom, there is that little practice option. It will actually pop up a tab and then open practice for students so they can do practice right there and then close it. It'll give them their score. And one really cool thing is that in our science books that are in this course section, it will actually correlate and tell them, we were struggling on some of these questions. Here's a paragraph or two that might be useful to help you understand what you were missing. That is that will be available for science when we release these. It will be coming for math down the road as well. At the bottom of that page, you saw kind of the little bar with some options. The first one says related. At the bottom of some of our concept books, you've started to see the related modalities here. Here you can see kind of those same ones, but they're hidden and they're easily accessible kind of at any point in time. So it's not that you have to scroll down to the bottom of the page to see them. You can click on that and pop them up at any point while you're reading and access them quickly. When you have the ability to customize, you'll be able to handpick the modalities that you want to include when you go from there. And that will be a little further down the road, not in our initial release. The other thing, kind of a couple ones over from there, is our resources. So if you have been looking at the resources attached to some of our current books, you'll see answer keys, you'll see worksheets that teachers might have uploaded themselves. You'll be able to find those similar resources here for any that we've posted or that you want to include in your particular piece when we start customizing. In between that was our notes and highlights. Students have asked, where are my notes? Where are my highlights? They have been at the bottom of our standard FlexBooks. They will be accessible through that quick just link right there at any point in time, no matter where they are in the text. And they can see those pieces. There's also that option to export them. That's been one of the biggest requests for notes and highlights. My student created these great notes. They want to export them and have them in their notebook. What can we do? So you'll be able to download and export that. And then we have changes in size and actually spacing so that you can kind of adjust the font and the size of text and what that looks like and help kind of with students who might want a different layout or a different spacing for ease of reading. And then we have assigning concepts. This first sentence says, this will assign the entire concept that will require both the read and the practice to be completed in order to turn it in. So one of the biggest questions was, I would like to batch assign parts. I don't just want them to do the read. If I'm assigning the read, I probably want this practice report. So in this case, for FlexBooks 2.0, you would be assigning the read and the matching practice. You can add instructions, you can pick your classes like always, and we've added a start date. So you could preset these so that they don't get released to a class to a certain date, and you don't have to always be posting them exactly when you want students to first be able to access them. So hopefully that will be helpful. This assigned to class feature will work the way our current ones do, where you can assign within CK-12 or to Google Classroom. And as we continue to work on this rollout, you'll also have the option to assign our FlexBooks 2.0, kind of that grouped read and practice within Schoology and Canvas. So I just gave you a couple screens, a little taste of what that looks like. Earlier this week, so on Monday, our CTO did a great walkthrough and actually click through and show you all these different pieces. There's a recording of that in the CEP Google class if you want to check that out, so you can kind of see that piece. And then, of course, when we actually release this in the August, we will schedule something shortly after that to kind of help you walk your way through that piece as we go. So I think with that, I'm going to pause and see what questions we might have and go from there.
We again got some questions about, I think, elementary content, specifically on first grade, of what there is on CK-12 for teachers interested in that, what they can use. And then one person who was following up on the release date for science.
So currently, we have available within our CK-12 content for elementary, we have science books for kindergarten through 5th grade. So you'll see those under elementary science. If you're not seeing K-5 science when you look at all your subjects, just expand to see all subjects and it should pop up. We have under 1st through 5th grade math, we have practice and videos. Those are a little more traditional learning for students at that age. And that's one of the reasons why we are in continued conversations to update that elementary math content to be a little bit more aligned with kind of that idea of exploratory learning and not, here's how this works, now go practice it. So those are accessible resources at this time. There's one algebra pre-K through 7th grade explorations book under the algebra branch that might be useful there. And then you are more than welcome to explore the community contributed content for elementary content as well. So check those out. That is what we currently have available. As I said, we started with middle school and high school math and science. We have expanded out to other levels. We've expanded out to, a couple college books, some elementary content, some other topic areas as people have donated content. But that's our core piece. As for science, I don't personally have an updated release date for, I'm assuming you're asking about NGSS science content within the FlexBooks 2.0. We are still updating that content to kind of include the philosophy behind NGSS, and we are working to see what that's going to look like before it gets released. In the meantime, you are more than welcome to use any of our current science offerings, our PLIX interactives for science, our simulations for science, our practice for science, and that is all available there. And that version of science will be available in FlexBooks 2.0 when we release that. So it's not our newly NGSS work that we're currently kind of creating and working on right now, but it is the kind of our core concepts books across science will be available in that FlexBooks 2.0 when we release it.
Okay, if you have more questions, please keep them coming. I'm going to do some additional information here that might help you guys with the session. So we've been visiting many of you these past couple of years. And if you are interested in having us stop by your school, your classroom to see how things are going with CK-12, you can always email us at jumpstart@ck12.org. We've hit up a lot of states, and so we love coming to see how you're using us. One thing I want to make sure you guys are aware of, and I will chat out the links. We'll see if I can multitask here. We are going to have live conversations happening on Friday, and we divided them up into different regions, different areas of education. And I'm going to post in the chat window right now direct links for you guys to join any of these sessions. This is where you guys finally have the opportunity to turn on your microphone if you choose to. You can even turn on your camera if you want to, and talk to each other and find out what's happening in your area. So please, the registration links are in the chat. If you're interested in joining any of these, we'd love to have your participation. Also, if you haven't joined our Jumpstart for Educators forum yet, we do have a lot of good questions that are being posted there. It's a great place to network. We've got introductions. You can find people around you who are using CK-12. And then these assignment sessions, most of these have already passed. We do have one more LMS breakout session that's for Canvas, and you can join us. You can also see some of the recordings that are in Google Classroom. So if you need to still get started with assignments, or you're still looking to customize adaptive practice, you might want to scrub through those videos that are in our Google Classroom. And same thing with FlexBooks. We're starting to wrap up our FlexBooks sessions of getting started with FlexBooks, advanced FlexBook editing. We do have a Common Core math session that's going to happen tomorrow, so you guys want to make sure to join us for that. And then we did our last CK-12 platform for non-STEM users this morning, where we talked about creating books from scratch. So you can view any of those on demand as well. And then some additional, we've got a teaching strategy session coming up, and then a Sims and PLIX interactives webinar that's going to happen in like an hour. So you can join us for that if you have not already. Resource pages are posted in our Google Classroom. We chatted out the link earlier for this session. And then, as always, we have a feedback form that we love getting your feedback on how webinars are going. So if you have not filled one of these out yet, I'm going to post this link in the chat window right now. We'd love for you to tell us what you're liking, what you're not liking about our sessions and program this year. And so lastly, you can join us on the socials. You can like us at ck12.org on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, get involved in the conversation with hashtag CK12certified. And then if we missed answering any of your questions today, you can email us at jumpstart@ck12.org. So I'm going to kick it back over to Katie, and she will wrap up any additional questions. If your questions have been answered, thank you for joining us. You're free to head off. If you have individual questions, stay on and we'll answer them.
So we have a question about North Carolina. It looks like I originally thought it was about the Jumpstart. There is a Jumpstart forum for North Carolina. There's not a specific live chat for North Carolina. There is one for the Northeast/Mid-Atlantic. There's also South, there's some options. We tried to kind of give general big categories for you guys to join so we could encourage conversation. So feel free to join any one that you think best fits where you are, or more than one if you want to join more than one. But feel free to kind of work your way through that. And then there was a question about getting to Google Classroom. You should have received a welcome email when you joined the program and you registered for a session. That has a class code in it. I can also have Lindsay pull up that code and add it to the chat window. But if you go to classroom.google.com, you can see that particular piece and then use that code to join, and you'll be able to access all of the resources within there. And it looks like you already found it anyway. So fantastic. I think that's it for open questions at this point in time. If you have any other ones, please feel free to email us at jumpstart@ck12.org, and we'll be happy to answer them. But thanks for joining us.